Welcome, Coleman Report Live, 02202020 edition.
A lot of 20s.
There's a lot of twos and zeros. Katie Watucky, Lance Sexton, and John Rioski, Community Bank reporter for American Banker. John, thank you so much for joining us for an update on what's going on. But first, I want to start with AJ Nasik, a principal, national client manager and partner, is our sponsor this week. Lance,
that's exciting.
Go ahead, AJ. What are you going to talk about?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, guys. Quick intro: Partner Engineering and Science, nationwide due diligence firm, providing everything from environmental construction to Alta zoning. Specifically wanted to hit on construction because that was a hot topic yesterday. So really appreciate Coleman's support of us, and we appreciate supporting Coleman and all the educational opportunities that you guys provide. So real quick on Partners nationwide construction services specific to SBA, providing contractor evaluations, document and cost review pre-closing, monthly monitoring with funds control, and funds control being the key component of both 7A and substantiation of funding on 504 loans for any construction deal nationwide. So construction risk management, kind of a proactive tool to manage construction projects and manage lender risk on any type of property, any type of project nationwide. So definitely here to support you guys, both conventional and SBA construction projects.
We appreciate your support. We have a link on our website if you want to get hold of AJ. AJ, thank you very much for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
John Rioski, American Banker. John, you're here to talk about a couple things. First of all, we sent you the Coleman Report 500. What numbers stick out to you? Hey, that's a good-looking picture of you, by the way. I like that.
Thank you. Well, I guess the things that stick out to me, this is 7A, is it was down a little bit from last year.
I think, what do we say? Right.
Yes. Number of loans and also obviously the gross amount of loans. What's not on the chart and what's interesting about this week's, the most recent weekly lending report, which takes the program through January, through the end of January, is even though the 7A numbers are running behind the 2019 numbers, the 504 numbers are so strong that when you add everything up, SBA is doing more lending overall. But the 7A numbers are still very strong. They're still trending for a year in excess, well in excess of $20 billion. And given the economy, I don't think that's bad at all. I'm hoping the agency feels the same way.
Good. Hey, I want you to talk about, I know you're working on a story on the new SBA rules that came out last week. And what are your sources telling you?
Well, we're focusing in the story on three areas of that. It's a really big rule. We're going to have a follow-up story with a focus on a fourth, smaller component of that I'd like to mention real quick. But what we're focusing on in the story is the fees, the new regulation on fees, on the amount of equity that the lenders must inject if they have liquid capital above a certain level, and obviously on the affiliation rules, most clearly on affiliation. What banks I've talked to say is, at least a few that I've talked to about affiliation, is the rules are workable. It is a significant improvement over what was put forward in September of 2018, but they would still like to see it made even more clear. They say workable, yes. Clear and easy to use, no, that the SBA hasn't reached that, and they would like to see that. Several banks I've talked to say that they plan on submitting comment letters. I checked the comment letters as of this morning. There were only a handful, and all of them, for some odd reason, the main ones dealt with the microloan component of the rule, which is a very small component, but the microloan people are on the ball, and they got their comment letters in quickly. Obviously, I think the banks are waiting, taking their time, and they're going to submit letters, but it will be much closer to the deadline, which is April 10th.
Yeah, but the rule takes effect in a month, correct?
The rule takes effect March 11th. It's an odd process. The rule takes effect March 11th. There are a couple components that will actually, they'll go longer. They'll be October 1st. But what really, it takes, the word interim is the key word here, because SBA is going to collect the comments. It's going to analyze them. And it may well, it's not guaranteeing anything. It may come back with another document that presumably will be the final document.
John, give some background, Washington background in the weed stuff. I know Senator Rubio, the chair of the Senate Small Business Committee, issued a press release which, I don't want to say threatened, but urged SBA not to do this. Give us more background on that.
He did. He's been urging SBA for a year to delay putting this rule out. And he did again when the new administrator was confirmed, Administrator Carranza. Obviously, she chose to do otherwise, and he sent a letter to her earlier this month. It was dated February 6th, but I think it was actually, she received it a couple of days later. But in any event, he sent this letter to her, and the last sentence was, if you do choose to go ahead and begin to implement this rule, they will use all the legislative remedies that are available to them.
That sounds ominous. I don't know what that means.
Sounds ominous, and it's a little bit vague, and probably was meant to be vague. And I'm going to make a prediction, I guess, or take a guess at what their first step would be. And I've got to believe it will be hearings to bring her onto Capitol Hill and to A, let her tell her side of the story, but B, have her be accountable to them and hear their concerns.
And administration officials love those hearings. I mean, that's going to be the highlight of their career, to go in there and get raked over the coals. What is his motivation? What is his problem with what's happening? What do you think?
What I'm hearing is that one of his big problems is they don't feel, he, his staff, perhaps the committee staff, don't feel that in analyzing the rules, the regulations impact, SBA did a proper or adequate job of gauging the economic impact that this will have on businesses. If you've read the rule, and probably a lot of people listening to us have looked at it, you'll see there's very detailed tables about the number of hours it will save in processing and the number of dollars it will save. Nothing about the impact, nothing about the potential for small businesses, particularly the businesses seeking smaller loans, losing their access to credit because of the rules' effects in the economic realm, which presumably they would argue is the far more important realm than paperwork production.
Well, I'm really looking forward to your reporting on this. I know you're on top of it, and I know you're out of Washington. And you and I talked very briefly on Velasquez, the House. They haven't commented on this. That I haven't picked anything up yet.
They haven't commented to date. If they have, it's really recent, like in the last few hours. And so Senator Rubio seems to be taking the lead on this. Just one quick mention in this. Two interesting things in the rule. Of the thousands and thousands of comment letters they got more than 50 urging the SBA to increase the threshold, the size threshold for express loans. Yeah, they talked about 500,000 in there, but SBA wants to go even further than that. And the rule, there's one thing about the rule with microloans, which is really interesting. That it's interesting how much the Trump administration is focusing on this. They're going to extend the maturity for microloans from 6 years to 7 under this, and no one is opposed to that. So I can't imagine anyone would be opposed.
Well, obviously, this is a shameless plug for Lance and I for next week. We're going to be doing our webinars, a two-parter. It's going to be the same content, but you can attend one, the other, or both for the same price. We're not going to, it's the same content. So in that way, we can staff it. John, I really appreciate you stopping by. You always give us great content, and let's make sure we get you back on soon.
Okay, whatever, Bob. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Bob.
Yeah, Lance, go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you, talking about 504 loans growing and 7A loans declining a little bit, the debenture sale on one of my 504 deals took place last week, and the borrower got a 25-year fixed rate under 3.7%.
Oh,
so
yeah.
If you want to know why 504 is growing and 7A is declining a little bit, that's the answer.
That's the answer. Yeah, and that's and they're yeah, you're right.
The
Hey,
blended rate on the loan was, subprime.
I love it. I love it. And that's great for Main Street. Let's go to the questions. SBA charge-off rates declined in 2019. True, false, or I have no idea.
Bob, one thing about this is we have been through this extended period of people paying on time and default rates lowering. There is a day that will change.
Let's bring Katie in. Katie, what are the numbers?
Right. So both the people who said true, that's correct. Both 7A and 504 are down. 7A was at the highest in 2010 at 4.3%. It is now at 1%. And 504 was the highest in 2013 at 4.4%, and that is now 0.3%.
Wow.
Hey, Bob, that's why we were so busy when I was deputy director in Little Rock. I was there in 2010.
No, it was your fault.
It was my fault. No.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I mean, and as Lance said, and we do these polls from time to time, and I think the majority of the answers were, yeah, they were seeing an uptick in delinquencies in their portfolio. And obviously these are last year numbers, so it's not, it's not current. This is as of October 1, so we're 5 months further along. But I agree.
Default and past due are two different things. I mean, I think bankers are seeing more past dues, but not necessarily more defaults.
Yeah, very good. Which is just, as Lance always preaches, servicing. Do that. Hey, Lance did a great job yesterday on our webinar, and we're just curious, how much equity does your institution require for a mixed use? SBA construction loan. Mixed use would be a warehouse, something that not single purpose as a hotel or a restaurant.
Yeah, and Bob, as we always discuss, SBA offers what the minimum should be, but prudent lending might dictate that you require more.
And the minimum is 10%, but as the majority of you out there want a little bit more. So that's...
Hey, I like the over 30%, Bob.
we got a couple of votes on that one. Finally, what is the minimum square foot usage of a borrower for a new construction project? In other words, what do they have to occupy?
Well, and this is a great question, Bob, to encourage SBA lenders, because a small business borrower can lease part of the space of a building that's
great,
financed.
Lance. Give away the 100% answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Well, I just eliminated one answer, Bob.
Very good. 60% is correct. 60% is correct. Now, Lance, when can we do 51%?
That's, if it's not new construction, if it's just financing of a existing commercial real estate or refinancing of that commercial real estate, right. 51% would be correct. They can lease out the remaining.
I thought I was going to stump some people on that with the 51%.
We've got a smart crowd, Bob.
We do. Let's go to the questions. David asked that you mentioned SBA minimum equity requirements of 10, 15% single use, but I can't find that in the SOP.
Well, let me clarify for David. That's on 504 loans. The 7A loans don't give specific equity requirements other than 10%. On 504 loans, there's two scenarios. One, if you have a new business or a special purpose property, 15% equity is required. If you have a combination of the two, if you have a new business and a special purpose property, it bumps up to 20%. So, David, that was on SBA 504 loans. 7A loans, again, 10% minimum equity injection, but as Bob and I always tell you, there are other factors that could cause you as a participant bank to want more.
Mike asked a great question on refinancing or taking out the interim construction financing? What are SBA's requirements on this type of transaction lanes?
Well, I think that it's like any interim loan that you would do. Sometimes I do interim loans on non-construction projects when we need to get something done quick before we can get the SBA deal in place. You want to underwrite it with SBA eligibility in mind, but you can refinance a interim construction loan into an SBA permanent loan. But Bob, I just want to encourage everybody, you can do it all in one piece. You can do the construction loan, the permanent financing in one piece. It can have a maturity of 25 years plus the construction period. And it's simpler for your borrower. It's less costly for your borrower, and it's great service to the borrower.
Good, it's same institution debt, but it is legitimate. You can do it. So.
You can do same institution debt when it's interim, and it's clear that it's interim, and the intent is to take it out with SBA loan.
Yeah, very good. Sam asked the question: does a third-party fund control inspection substitute for the final appraisal certification? And the answer on that is yes, it is. Katie, you've been writing about annual performance goals. What's your reporting telling us?
So on February 5th, we got the annual performance report from the SBA for 2021. And it's mostly discussing the goals that they had to try to reach by 2021. And they actually have already reached their goal and surpassed their goal in federal contracting. Their original goal was 23% procurement of small businesses. They're actually over 25% within the first year of implementing these goals. So that's $120 billion for small businesses right there. So that's very good news. They're still working on human capital. That's a problem that's kind of been occurring for a while, especially with maintaining employees. They didn't really discuss in detail what their plan was to try to help small businesses, but they do realize that's a problem that small businesses are having. And they also discussed that the OIG is looking into implementing some new compliance rules, trying to figure out what happened last year, why they did not find the lender non-compliance earlier, figure out why there were so many lenders that were not.
Well, we're going to be all, there's a lot of great information in that report. If you have insomnia, you can download all 130 pages, but Katie's going to all over this. And as you said, we're going to focus greatly on lender compliance, what the Inspector General is recommending, and what SBA will do for implementation. Fraud Friday, what's the story?
So I believe this was on February 5th. I could be wrong. It could have been the 4th. Luke Steiner, a former director for a pharmacy benefit consulting firm, pleaded guilty to conspiring with Michael Mann in a bank fraud scheme that cost Michael Mann saying about $70 million in bank fraud. And what they were doing, it's kind of a classic case. Mann was creating companies and they were completely fake just for the purpose of obtaining these loans and lines of credit, and claiming that he was working with Steiner's company. And Steiner's company was saying, yes, they're working with us, when in reality, all of that was fake, and he's just taking in the money himself.
And the reason why we're covering this story is he was withholding payroll taxes from, they said, about 1,000 small business clients.
Right. And each of those small business clients had at least another 1,000 employees. So,
and they're responsible. And they're going to have to, even though they paid it to this company, they got ripped off, they're going to have to still pay the IRS. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. Good stuff, Katie. Let's see. We still, if you want to get to Vegas, these are our winners. You're welcome to join us for lunch. And I think we're gonna do it at Bouchon at the Palazzo.
Oh wow!
So you're welcome to join us, and these are our winners. And we're gonna try to have a special guest there to speak. We talked about our upcoming webinars, and we're going to do collateral and that. We've expanded. I think we've got everything. We've added the NAGL, the NADCOs. We got some more from Jennifer. blooming, and I think we have all of the lists. So there's this. I see Kentucky's new, and America East and Malk. Lance, you can be down at Malk. I think you're a speaker, aren't you, this year?
Going to be at Malk, Bob. I just want to encourage all the people on the call, make sure and find one of these lending events close to you and attend, because it's a great way to interact with fellow banker or fellow participant bankers. It's a great way to interact with SBA, and it's a good opportunity to meet that training requirement that SBA has for your lending staff.
We've added 2 rural community infrastructure roundtables. USDA BNI will be there. I do not see Salt Lake City on this list. Are you going out to Salt Lake City, Lance?
Salt Lake City's just in a few. It's like I don't know that it's in March. It's still up in the air whether we'll be able to go to Salt Lake City. I just got back from Denver, the America West Road Show, so I'm not sure, Bob. But I hope so.
It's America West Road Show out of Salt Lake City, guys. Let's make sure we add that next.
I believe it's the 4th and the 5th. I could be wrong.
March 4 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alma. Joseph, I skipped over the order form. You want to go back to that real quick? If you can do that. It's in your GoToWebinar. It's a PDF in your GoToWebinar, and it's the order form for the Coleman Report 500. This year, we did a little bit differently. We've listed every lender, all the top 100 lenders. We also have the USD BNI numbers there. So there's a lot of good information on that. And you can either call us or fax that over to us, and we will get that out to you immediately. And with that, Katie, Lance, John, thank you all for joining us. Talk to you next week.
Have a great weekend.